Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Pits of Motorcast. This is yours, Dave. In a minute or two, our special guest, dragster driver Thomas Gall, on the line with me. Hold on, let me get him on.
This is Tom.
Hey, Tom, you're live on the air on the Pits of Motorcast. How you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you doing?
Oh, not bad. So how was your Christmas and New Year?
Oh man, it's been busy, you know how it is. I mean, running around and, getting to spend some time with family was super nice, but it wears a guy out too. I'm glad that it's over.
Yeah.
It was also a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how was your drag racing year with the crazy year we had with the COVID-19?
Yeah, up here in the Midwest where I'm from, right at the beginning when COVID hit, I wondered kind of what was going to happen, what's going to happen, and I just kept hearing about races that were getting canceled, and races are getting canceled down south, and everywhere except our area, pretty much. I mean, my local area, we probably had what I would say is, the loosest restrictions on, our racing schedules and stuff like that. Obviously, we had some plans to travel, further away, and those races all kind of got stacked towards the end of the season. So it was a really hectic schedule at the end. We didn't get to go to maybe everything that we wanted to go to, but we stayed busy. We definitely stayed busy racing here, fairly local. And our season actually really wasn't impacted too much by the virus, fortunately. We stayed definitely busy at the racetrack. We raced at, probably half a dozen tracks this year. So did our fair bit of traveling, chasing some big money bracket races, and then also racing locally here too. So yeah, tons of fun.
Yeah, that's good. So how many events did you run?
Oh man, I could not tell you off the top of my head. I don't have my last year's schedule in front of me, but I think we had probably maybe 3 weekends off or something like that throughout the summer. So we stayed busy. I don't know how many events specifically that we did, but chasing some big money bracket racing up through Michigan. Of course, the highlight of our season was at the SFG Million, which was the first ever drag race in the history of the sport that paid $1 million to the winner. It was actually $1.1 million, so it's the highest paying drag race in the history of the sport. So just being able to be involved in that was definitely a highlight of the season.
So how did the dragster run for you in 2020?
It went much better for us here in 2020 than back in 2019. In 2019, I made a huge combination change, and we were running a small block in the car back then, and it was a big small block, and had nothing but grief, just getting it to run consistently. And so back in 2019, we ended up making some changes, going back to a different small block combination that was a little bit more reliable, that we had a little bit more experience with, and it was, things started clicking once we switched back. Well then, come 2020, instead of sticking with what we know works, what do? We decided to change everything again. So in 2020, stepped up to a big block power plant. I was running a 565 big block Chevy, just a conventional headed, big block, maybe like 1,000 horsepower or something like that. And so there was a little bit of a learning curve to that, but wow, what a difference going, from a small block to a big block power. It definitely changes the game, and it's a lot more fun. So the car ran great this year. Got it dialed in, figured out, where we needed to be with the converter and everything to make it consistent and make it repeat numbers. Of course, in bracket racing, that's what it's all about, and we got a hold of it pretty quickly because my dad had run this combination in his car before. So it was a pretty easy swap and a pretty easy transition relative to the prior year. So car ran good. We were really happy with it.
So will you be doing any more changes to it for the next, this season?
Oh, yeah. We're always trying to make it better. We're always trying to make improvements. We're always trying to find more consistency, maybe a little bit more power. So we're going to be making some changes. We're actually having a different engine in the car again this year. We're going to be stepping up to a 582, which is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit better piece. Has a little bit better heads on it. And, of course, we're going to be coupling that with a brand new carburetor from Get 'em Performance. So Get 'em Performance getting on board with us this year. They make some of the nicest, most consistent carburetors, all billet, all American made. They're like a thing of beauty. So we're going to be bolting one of them on the top. Super excited to be able to give that a go this season. Shout out to them. Appreciate all their support of our racing operation. So it'll be a 582 Get 'em carburetors bolted up with the Dales A1 transmission on the back, Power Glide. Yeah, Jones transmission cooling system's on board, keeping that transmission cool. So basically, a little bit bigger engine, a little bit better piece, a little bit better carburetor. Hopefully going to be getting a little bit more consistency out of that. And we'll see how it goes, I guess.
So when did you originally purchase that dragster?
We built that car brand new. And this was a while back. It was 2006. That's a long time ago, but we built it brand new in 2006. And I was in high school at the time. And, my dad has raced since he was in high school. So I've been around the racetrack since I was born, And so, as I was growing up, I was always asking Dad, like, hey man, I really want one of those junior dragsters, those junior dragsters. I was always into that. And my dad said, you can have a junior dragster. You can race that junior dragster just a handful of weekends, or maybe you want to get a dirt bike. And so I decided to go with the dirt bike. And so I never had a junior dragster because he talked me into it. He's smart. My dad is a smart guy. He knows that junior dragsters are a lot of work for the parent. And so he decided, hey, or you can get a dirt bike. You can race it every day if you want, even in the winter. And he convinced me to get a dirt bike, and I don't regret it at all. I had like 3 dirt bikes growing up. It was an awesome experience. I learned a ton on those. But finally in high school, I got behind the wheel of my old man's 64 Chevelle, which was turned into a bracket car. And so I raced that for the first year. And just verified that I completely loved the sport and I completely loved bracket racing. And so my dad said, well, it looks like you're into this. Looks like you're fairly successful at it. Looks like you're, want to put in the work. So he said, let's build you a dragster. That is the safest way to go fast, and it's probably the most competitive way to participate in this, highly competitive sport. And so I was like, all right, let's go, building a new dragster. So we built a new dragster in 2006, and it's an M&M chassis. So we bought it basically a bare chassis. It had powder coating on it, but all of the aluminum panels were bare. It was just a bare chassis, bare bones. So, my dad, he builds all the engines. He did that. We did all the wiring. We did all the plumbing. We painted the car. I don't know if you've ever seen the car, but it's like one of the more colorful cars that you'll see. And I did all the design work on that back when I was in high school, and I probably got a little bit overboard with it. But my old man, he laid down the paint, and I remember it being about a 24-hour process to put the paint on that car. And I remember falling asleep in the shop because, it was just 24 hours straight of painting. It was insane. But that's definitely a memory back when we were painting that car. But, yeah, we did everything to it. Got it built. Just had a small block in it for years, Raced it locally. Had a ton of success with it. Probably a dozen track championships in that car over the years. I'd have to count. I can't remember off the top of my head, but tons of success, and we've been doing it in that same car ever since. It's getting a lot of miles on it. It's probably time for me to make an upgrade to a new race car here shortly, but we got at least another season left in this thing.
So it was all Dad's fault that you got into drag racing?
Absolutely, it's his fault. But I mean, we love this sport, and it's completely a family thing for us. So it's his fault that he got us into the sport that just bonds our family together at like the highest level. So I have him to thank for that, because now we get to spend pretty much every weekend in the summer together doing what we love. And I bring my kids to the track. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and now I have a 1-year-old son who made it to some of the races last summer, but he was really young, so he didn't come to all of them. And so my wife stayed home with him a little bit last summer. So looking forward to this upcoming season and actually being able to have both the kids down there. And my dad loves that too. Getting time to spend with his grandkids at the track. It's a family thing for us, for sure. And I think that becomes pretty apparent once people start watching the videos on the Gallstar TV YouTube channel to see that, the value we put into the family side of things is huge.
Now, your wife backs you 100% with drag racing?
What's that?
Your wife backs you 100%, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I can't thank her enough. I mean, this last season it was a little different, like I said, because we just had a newborn and she wasn't around quite as much. But the prior season, I can't thank her enough for all of her support. I mean, she puts up with me not only during the weekends in the summer, it's during the weekends in the winter when we're working on the cars, making improvements to the cars. It's during the weeknights when I'm working on, trying to gain partnerships and marketing partnerships and sponsors, or I'm trying to make YouTube videos, or I'm trying to, ramp up the social media about the racing program, and I'm just constantly working on it, but it's what I love. It's my passion, as you can tell. And huge shout out to her for actually being able to put up with me and the amount of work that I put into this. I think people probably don't see that, all of the behind the scenes and how much time I spend on all this stuff, but it's what I love, and it's just what I want to do every day. So, I cannot be any more thankful for her putting up with all that. And she helps on the channel too. She helps with the YouTube videos that people probably don't understand how many of the shots, she spends a lot of time behind the camera too when she's at the racetrack. So, when I'm in the car, of course I got cameras all over the car, but she's behind the big camera, over in the grandstands or whatever too. So she helps out a pile.
So now, besides YouTube and Facebook, are you on any other social media outlets?
Yeah, so you can find me, of course, the main platform that we're on is YouTube. Gallstar TV is the premier bracket racing channel on YouTube. So we post weekly bracket racing content. Every single Wednesday there'll be a new bracket racing video going up on the Gallstar TV YouTube channel. We put a ton of work into it. Probably been working on that channel for about 4 years now, and we've been making weekly content for that long. Because back 4 years ago, I was watching YouTube and I was like, man, there's no bracket racing content on this platform. I mean, where's the bracket racers at? All I could really find was little bits of raw footage or in-car footage, and no one was really doing like a vlog or putting together a good produced, finished product, that had some polish on it that looked nice. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to be that guy. So we've been working really hard on it for the last 4 years. So Gallstar TV on YouTube is the main place that you'll find us. Of course, Gallstar TV on the Facebook page. You can follow us for all updates there. And then we're also on Instagram too, so Gallstar TV on Instagram. And then, of course, shout out to our website, gallstartv.com. That's where you're going to go ahead and find information about the latest videos and where you can follow us, information about all of our marketing partners, and, of course, our swag shop. Get yourself hooked up with some Gallstar TV swag. We got all kinds of new stuff coming in right now. We've been working on a pile of designs, hoodies, T-shirts, hats. We got everything. Pop sockets. We've been working on some super top secret stuff that I can't let out of the bag right now. That'll actually be like a trick, cool little part for your race car. All right, I've already said too much. I better stop there. But Tons of stuff going to be ramping up a lot of the inventory over on the Gallstar TV swag shop at gallstartv.com. So those are the main places that you can find us.
Cool. So now, after all the years you've been racing now, what still keeps you passionate about it?
That is such a good question, because this is something I've actually been wanting to make a video about, because there's so many reasons why I love this sport. And when people ask you why do you like racing, I think the answer that they expect to get is oh, I just love going fast, or I love speed, or something like that, and that's the smallest bit of it for me, to be honest with you. I think the two biggest things that I love about it is, of course, I've already talked about spending time with my family and how big of a part of the whole operation that my family is. That's the big part of it. But I think what I like about it most is just the level of competition. I like to be able to push myself to be able to perform at the highest level of the bracket racing sport, because it is so tough, you guys. It is races that are won and lost by thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of a second, and it happens lap after lap after lap. The sport is so precise, and it's so intense as far as how to win and lose these races, and how close each one of them are. So it's just that level of competition that really gets me excited. When you see somebody win by just a thou because they did everything right, I get very excited about that. It's just an exciting sport once you take the time to understand it and to listen and understand what the announcers are saying and like that. It's a fun thing to watch, and it's even more fun to participate in. So I think it's that level of competition that I just like being involved in, and that's what keeps me passionate about it. It's just getting better and better and better, and being the best that I can be out there.
All right. So now, speaking about getting better and better, do you think you can get better, as a driver, and how do you achieve that to get better and better?
Man, there's a lot of things that I've been trying to push myself to do. I think my racing career probably reached its peak back in 2017. 2017, I was able to qualify for the IHRA Summit Super Series World Finals, which is an event at the end of the season that takes place at Memphis International Raceway down in Tennessee. And so I qualified for that race. I had been trying to qualify for that race for 10 straight years and couldn't get into it. And in 2017, I was able to get into it. And it's basically a race that consists of all of the track champions from all of the IHRA sanctioned tracks across the country. And so if you qualify to make it down into that race, you're racing against all the other champions. So there's probably, 60 or so competitors there. And there's people from Canada and Puerto Rico and Aruba and everything else there. It's crazy. But in 2017, we were actually able to capture a win down there at that race. So I was the 2017 world champion. So that was definitely the height of my racing career. And ever since then, we've had success, but not like that year. That year, just everything seemed to click. So I've been working hard to try and get back up to that level. I think a lot of it is just having luck on my side. But as far as improving, I put in a lot of hours on the practice tree. And shout out to Porta Tree Timing Systems. They provide the equipment that I need to stay sharp during the off season. I live in South Dakota. And I'm sitting in the middle of a blizzard right now as we speak. It's windy and snowy outside. It's terrible, but so there's a long off season for me. But staying sharp on the Christmas tree. Shout out to Porta Tree for giving me the equipment that I need to be able to do that. They have practice trees that fit in your pocket all the way up to full size national event trees. So check them out at portatree.com. But yeah, I spend a lot of hours on the practice tree for sure. I think yesterday I did about 250 hits on the practice tree. I try to stay as consistent as I can. I put the work in.
Now, if you could have your bracket racing fans remember one thing about you, Tom, what would you want that one thing to be that they remember about you?
had never really thought about that before, but, I think I know the answer. One thing I would want my fans to remember about me is probably not so much racing performance or anything like that, but probably just what I try to do in the videos is I always try to stay positive. I try to maintain a positive attitude. So I think that's what I would want people to remember me by. I just try to spread positivity throughout our sport as much as I can. I mean, our sport it's tough to stay positive in sometimes because, hundreds of people travel thousands of miles to come race an event, and there's only one winner. Everybody loses. Everybody is going to lose except one guy, and it can become discouraging. It's a very humbling sport. A lot of people say it's a super humbling sport, and maintaining positivity is sometimes difficult. So I think I'd want people to remember me by, trying to spread that positivity and maintain that positivity throughout the sport of bracket racing. That's what I'm trying to do with the channel, and that's what I try to do in the videos.
All right, now what do you enjoy most about being a drag racer?
Well, aside from the things that I've already mentioned about being able to spend time with my family and just, being able to compete in that level of competition, I think it's pretty cool to be able to, kind of travel around the country a little bit, get to see new places, get to meet a lot of new people, get to be involved with a lot of great companies like K&R Performance Engineering, like I said, ExtremeFab.com, Feedlot Conversions on the back of our cars. Those are great people that I met because of drag racing, and they're running great companies. And so getting them on board with the channel and having them help us out on our racing operation is huge. And it's just nice to be able to, create those connections and have those friends when they're not just online friends. You know what I mean? You actually get to see them out at the racetrack or out at the trade shows. So being able to travel around and meet new people and go see new places, that's a pretty cool part of it.
Is there anything that you hate about drag racing? Being a drag racer?
I hate losing. That's for sure. like I said, it's a humbling sport, and holy smokes, it's hard. And, the thing that I hate the most isn't necessarily losing. Sometimes it's just the way that you lose. What I get really disappointed in myself about is when I lose because I messed up. If I just get beat because the other guy just put down a heck of a lap, like an unbeatable pass, and they just did everything right, and I did a good job too, it just wasn't quite good enough, that's okay. I can be okay with that. But what really irks me is when I just flat mess up, and I screw up, and I put in all the time and the work and the preparation to try to be my best out there, and then I just flat mess up on the starting line, or I mess up on the finish line, or something happens, and I just basically give the race away. It happens, and that's probably the worst part of the sport. That's what I hate about it. But otherwise, I love the sport. But that would be the one thing. It's just, and I think everybody can agree with that. It's frustrating when you mess up and you take yourself out of the race. It's just, I need some time alone. I need a little bit of time alone when that happens.
All right, so what's been one of your most embarrassing moments out there on the track?
Embarrassing moments on the track. I'm sure there's a lot of them. I probably have to go back through the YouTube channel and look through it to try and remember them. But, nothing's popping out in my head right at the moment. But I'm sure there's some of them out there probably along the same lines of making some sort of mistake in the car and just looking stupid. I know one time, here's a good one. I know one time I don't know, must have had a brain fart or something. I just lost my head and wasn't thinking. I staged the car in high gear. I staged the car and the tree came down. I hit the trans brake and it did not hold and the car rolled through the beams. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I looked down, the car's in high gear. I'm like, okay, you're an idiot. and I was not very happy with myself. And I guess that was pretty embarrassing to know what happened after that. But dang it, still upset about that one.
Now, besides you and your dad, are there any other crew members for the dragster?
No, there. My dad does most of the mechanical work on the car. Obviously, I help him as often as I can. But I guess my role in the operation, of course, is making the YouTube videos, trying to do the marketing, trying to grow our operation, making connections, and doing that side of it, and also driving in the car. And then my dad has a dragster too. We're a team, so he has his own car. We both race. There's no other real crew members or anything like that, but I do have to shout out to Team Gallstar, which is my team of drivers kind of spread out across the country, and they help me a lot just with the advertising for the Gallstar TV YouTube channel, going out there and trying to find us new subscribers, spreading the word about the channel, because the channel is weekly bracket racing content. Like I said, when we aim to entertain, educate, and grow the sport of bracket racing, and I think any bracket racer that knows about the channel can get behind that. So just having that team, kind of across the country, helping out with the channel, they help me out a lot with, if I need video ideas, or if I need to bounce off different thumbnail ideas, and they get to vote sometimes on, what I do on the channel, and just help me out in ways like that. They help me a lot. So shout out to them. Not really a crew member on the car, but they're definitely behind the scenes, help out a lot with the Gallstar TV YouTube channel.
All right, now I think you talked about this a little bit already, but who are all your sponsors?
Yeah, my sponsors include K&R Performance Engineering, which is they make some of the trickiest bracket racing parts for your car: delay boxes, electronic dial-in boards, onboard air compressors, everything that you basically need. Go and find them, krperformance.com. Of course, porta tree timing systems, like I mentioned, making the practice trees and all the gear that you need to stay sharp. Extremefab.com, which is beadlocks conversion. The wheels on the back of my car, the beadlocks, they're beautiful. They're a thing of beauty, made by extremefab.com. So shout out to them. Get them performance, top of the line, all-American made billet carburetors. Dale's A1 transmission. Graphics by TMK, keeping our car lettered up and looking awesome. Help us out a lot with design work and all of our merchandise and stuff like that. Jones Transmission Cooling Systems, keeping that Dale's A1 transmission cool. Lucas Oil Products, and then, of course, RaceSponsorships.net. Involved a lot with RaceSponsorships.net, which is basically online course content and basically sponsorship consulting, where they'll help you basically teach the grassroots racers how to go out and gain marketing partnership, how to write a good proposal, how to represent a sponsor, covering all those kinds of things. And so really involved with them, and that's a lot of fun too. So I couldn't thank all my sponsors enough. They really help us out and really make it possible to go out and do what we're doing.
All right, now besides your dad being a big inspiration for you for drag racing, you have any other drag racers that that really inspired you or you look up to?
There's a couple, and mostly I think they're going to be local people. That I kind of grew up watching at my local track. I don't really have any professional drag racers that I look up to or anything like that quite as much, but because I grew up at my local track watching my dad race with other local racers, and I mentioned Dale's A1 Transmission as one of my marketing partners, and Dale's no longer with us, but he was kind of growing up. I watched him and just how hard he worked at this. And he has 3 boys who now run his business, Dale's A1 Transmission, and we're good friends with them. But I would say Dale, he was a great friend to my dad, and he was a great friend to me, too. But I watched him a lot, and I learned that how to work hard. And so I think he kind of showed me the passion behind the sport, kind of also with my dad, obviously. But I would say that he's one person that I kind of look up to.
All right, so what's been your fastest ET in that dragster?
So 8th mile racing, I've been 480. in the eighth mile, so 480s. In the quarter mile, I think it's gone. Man, I haven't raced quarter mile for a little while. I think it's going like 770 or something like that. So 770 in the quarter and 480 in the eighth.
So what do you prefer, quarter or eighth?
That's a big question in the sport of bracket racing. That's a debate. You stumbled across something that people have some strong feelings about. But in my part of the country, there's still a lot of quarter mile racing around here. In most of the country, it's pretty well eighth mile. I think I prefer eighth mile racing just because, as I mentioned before, I really like the high level of competition. I really like watching races that are, won and lost by 1,000th of a second. So if you go on an eighth mile track, the track is only half the distance, so everybody's packages versus their dial-in are that much closer. So you're going to see a lot more of that. So the race becomes a lot more exciting to me on an eighth mile format just because the level of competition is actually much, much higher. That and there's the pace of the race. When you're in the car, there's a lot that happens in a bracket race, and it just happens in less than 5 seconds on the eighth mile track. It's adrenaline. It's a lot of fun. And on a quarter mile track, it just takes a little bit longer. It just seems like the race is a little bit slower. So it's a little bit more exciting on the eighth mile track. So I guess I would have to say I prefer eighth mile racing.
All right, now you said the first time you went down a drag strip was in your dad's Chevelle, right?
Right.
So how was that experience going down a drag strip for the first time ever?
Okay, so obviously when we brought the car down to the track, my dad had to drive. There's a passenger seat in it, so I was in the passenger seat. I watched my dad drive it because he had to show me how it was done. I don't know how to do this. I was a kid, and so he gets in that car. I'm in the passenger seat. And we're going down the track, and it was like, I don't know, a high 11 second in the quarter mile car. So probably like 120, 125 in the quarter mile. And I remember going on the track, and it's just so loud, and there's so much vibration. And I'm like watching my dad, and I don't know why, but there's a lot of steering wheel movement going on. And I'm like, a lot of suspension travel going on. And I'm like, wow. This is crazy. I don't know if I can do this. And I told my dad after the run, I was like, Dad, I don't know if I can do this. And he's like, you can do it. Just get in there. And I was like super nervous. I was like, just looks a lot easier from the grandstand. Inside the car, it's actually terrifying. So I was really, really nervous the first time down the track. Of course, I was just in high school, but
yeah.
I got the hang of it pretty quick. But yeah, it was definitely an experience. I didn't know what to expect, and it was violent relative to what I was expecting. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so that first time was pretty nerve-wracking for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So how was the transition moving from that to the dragster?
Well, the dragster, I mean, I can't really remember. This was a lot of years ago, but we had the dragster, slowed down pretty good right from the get-go just to get used to it. Obviously, I was still really young behind the wheel, but the dragster was like, it just kind of launches straight forward. There's not like any wheelies or anything violent happening quite so much like in the door car. So it was actually really, really easy to kind of transition into that. It was just more of a point and shoot kind of situation. And the car just basically drives itself. It's a lot, there's a lot less as far as driving that goes on in the dragster. So the transition was that I had a year of experience under my belt, and the car is pretty easy to drive, so it wasn't that tough of a transition, really.
All right, so now, Tom, when you get out there in the staging lanes, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions?
Dude, I'm a nervous wreck out there. I probably could not list them all. And there's people that watch my videos, and they're like, dude, what are you doing in your car, right before your burnout? I'm like, I I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm checking everything. I think what I'm doing is I'm just like double checking everything, and by double checking I mean like checking it 12 times. Like my battery switch, my battery cutoff. That's a big one, because one time I had that thing vibrate open, I guess you would say, to where it killed my battery. And so like we've since fixed that problem, and there's no way that it could kind of just vibrate itself off. But it happened once. And since it happened once, now I check it like 1,000 times every single time I go down the track, and people just probably think I'm weird for that. But it's like ingrained. It's an ingrained habit that I have now to just check that battery kill switch like 1,000 times, and I look like a nervous wreck. But I guess that's one of the things that I do, but among many, probably.
All right, now what are some of your favorite tracks to race on?
Well, I would say that, I have to think about this, because my favorite track. Well, shout out to Cedar Falls Motorsports Park, because that's got to be my favorite track that's like somewhat close to home. So Cedar Falls Motorsports Park, they're getting some great events there. They're bringing some big money to the local bracket racing scene, and they treat us really good up there. So shout out to them. Really enjoy racing at their facility. Other than that, just like some of the nicest facilities I've been to is US 131 Motorsports Park in Martin, Michigan. Super nice facility, and the racetrack is like basically driving on a pool table. It's smooth. And then of course Memphis is kind of the same way. Really nice facility, really smooth track. But I would say that US 131 in Martin, Michigan, one of the nicer tracks I've been down. Yeah, I would say.
Now, is there a lot of prep that goes into getting that dragster ready for a weekend of racing?
Yeah, we do maintenance on the cars probably every third weekend. So it's not too terrible much. We only change tires during the off season. We put new tires on it. We service the cars, like I said, every third weekend or something like that. So it's not too terrible much. It's more just travel pretty far away, and then late nights on the road on the way home, and then work for the week, and then get back in the motorhome and travel again. That's the kind of stuff that kind of wears on you. But as far as maintenance goes, it's not too terrible. It's not too terrible much.
Now, what have been some of the milestones of your drag racing career so far?
As I kind of mentioned earlier, we race locally here pretty much exclusively for the first, 10 years of my racing career. We pretty much stayed here locally. That was until like the YouTube channel. We started the YouTube channel, things started kind of taking off. We started getting other people's attention a little bit. And then marketing partners came on board, and then we're able to travel a little bit more once we kind of get some support from the industry like that. It kind of opened a lot of doors for us. But before the YouTube channel, we basically just stayed local to our area. So we raced points a lot. We just raced for local points championships, and like I said, we had a lot of success at that. I don't know. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but I know I have probably double digits of track championships. Of course, in 2017 is when that track championship equated to being good enough to head down to Memphis and race for that world title, and being able to capture that world title, is definitely the career highlight of mine. But other than that, it's been a handful of Ironman races here and there for an IHRA Ironman trophy. So I got about I have 4 of those now. So those would be my main highlights.
So with drag racing keeping you so busy all year, do you have any time for any other hobbies at all?
My hobbies are basically drag racing and then making internet videos about drag racing. So I guess my other hobby would be like video creation and doing some live streams. on the internet and stuff like that. I don't know if you call that a hobby or not, but I have a lot of fun at it, so I count it. Cameras, flying drones, getting into some camera gear, cool lighting, microphones, stuff like that. I get excited about that kind of stuff, but it all kind of relates because it's all used to make content about drag racing.
Now, have you had any accidents or close calls in your drag racing career so far?
Yeah. Just one main one that I guess pops into my head. As far as like a close call, have not had any actual accidents, fortunately. But the one close call that I remember is just way too aggressive of finish line driving. So if you understand the sport of drag or the sport of bracket racing, you know that we're trying to take the finish line margin as narrowly as possible because we don't want to break out and run under our dial-in. So what that means is when we get to the finish line, we don't want to beat the guy by 5 feet. We want to beat him by 5 inches. So one time I got a little bit too aggressive with the brake pedal at the finish line, and I actually locked up my tires. And I kind of slid the car a little bit sideways, but I caught it right away, let off the brakes, and my car kind of caught and kind of made a violent move, and it actually whipped my head against the roll cage of the car. And it didn't, hurt me or anything like that, and it didn't, knock me out or anything like that, fortunately, but it definitely woke me up, and it definitely kind of terrified me. I was like, whoa, that was just about bad, because the car was just kind of, it was just wobbling, and the suspension was all upset and everything because I had locked up the brakes, and it got just a little bit squirrely, but, as soon as I let off the brake pedal, everything got back under control. But yeah, that was definitely an eye-opener where I realized kind of, okay, there's the limit. Let's not do that again. And so fortunately, I, haven't let that happen again ever since. But that was on a quarter-mile race. On a quarter-mile race, these cars are going 170 mile an hour. So it's pretty terrifying when you lock up the brakes at 170. But on an 8 mile race, we were only going 140. So it's still fast, but it's a lot different. 140 and 170, 180 is a whole different animal. But that would be my close call. And I was just really happy that I did that, during the middle of a sunny day and not late at night on a dewy track or something like that, because it probably would have been a lot worse.
All right, what's been your most memorable win?
Definitely Memphis World Finals 2017. Definitely the most memorable win by far.
Awesome. Well, Thomas, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. You have any final words, shout-outs before we close out?
I think I already shouted out all my sponsors. I just want to say how much I appreciate all them. Thank you to all of the viewers and all the subscribers of the Gallstar TV YouTube channel. I appreciate all of them guys so much for the support. They have no idea what all of those views and all those subscribers mean to me. It keeps me going and making more content. And so that's basically who I want to thank, that and my family, for helping make this happen. And thank you guys for having me.
And if anybody comes out to watch your race, they should always stop by your pit area, right?
Oh, absolutely. Stop by, say hi. We're going to have merchandise up for sale. We have stickers we're going to be giving away. I mean, you'll see the big Gallstar TV canopy or the banners. You'll see the cars. Come and stop by, say hi, We love seeing the fans, and we love giving away free stuff and all that kind of jazz, too.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again, and I wish you the best of luck with the 2021 drag racing season, Tom.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You have a great night.
All right. You too.
Bye.